recognize all of them. Penny Taboo, and I don't believe Penny was able to make it here today. Mandy Grace, you can stand. This is good. Rob Bacchus, Charlie Smith, Tony Hall, Jennifer Jorgensen, Susan Sanders. Please congratulate them. Without whom we would not be here today doing these things. Thank you. So, and I want to recognize also your absolutely called ministerial leadership, Alyssa, John, and I want to recognize the wisdom of Jonah Gorman, who, while Alyssa was on maternity leave, actually sat with the vision team and helped them discern the elongated part of the proposal time, which really has turned out to be very important. So we had listening sessions. Oh my goodness, how many of you were able to make it to listening sessions? Right? You excelled. You absolutely excelled. You listened to each other. You had beautiful worship around the things that you learned as you listened to one another, and we distilled out of that mission, right? What was the purpose of what we are going to be doing? Alyssa touched on it today, was to love our neighbors as ourselves. So we also expanded the listening sessions to include the wider community. Donald, you were at one of those gatherings. I don't know if other people were, so we listened to community leaders as well. And we compiled the data. Oh my goodness, pages. We had worship around that. We had the Lenten book studies. How many people were able to do the Lenten book studies? I had the laugh. The mission team thought we hit it out of the park. We had about 18, 20 people participating. There were that many in one group. So give yourselves also a round of applause on that one. That was amazing. It helped us move down into what was the mystery of your hearts. What was driving this? Where did your faith speak? Where were your eyes open to see things different ways? Then there were the initial proposals and an opportunity for people to put those together. I lost track, Melissa, you know, how many initial proposals came in?
40.
40, that's what I thought. Did you hear that? That's a lot of creative heart. We distilled those down because it was essential to do so into certain categories and theme areas, and then smaller groups began to work on those. Some of the amount of research, conversation, heart, reaching out, development of ideas that have gone into each and every one of these. It's humbling to watch. You are one of two churches in my entire career who has shown up with the kind of heart and commitment that I have seen. I've been doing this a while. That would be 40 years, but who's talking? So we've got an opportunity today to join the vision team. If you think in concentric circles, we've been discerning together next steps, God's voice, themes. It's all part of discernment. And now as we expand the circle for discernment, it's an opportunity to really listen to God speaking to you in your heart. Where are you being called as a congregation to address the needs of the siblings that you have been gifted with in the Burlington area and in this church? So this is the faithful application of all the research and development that's gone into this. Amazing results. And voting is not a good term. It's the best we have. What you're really doing is taking this the next developmental phase of discernment. Just like the initial proposals went down to 5 or 6, what now is emerging as the compelling call of God to pull you out? And discernment really is a process. So we are having a discernment event, discovery, a co-discovery. And the other thing I want to say is that's been amazing is the collaborative nature of putting these proposals together. How many people cross-fertilize teams, right? Yeah, see, the conversation. So no matter where we go next, everybody's a winner on this. Everybody, especially the people who will benefit. That this is not about competition. This is about God's will. And having an opportunity to discern that together is also God's will. So may it be. Amen.
So I get to do the exciting details of the how-to. And I have a sheet here. You may have seen it. I'll put that on in just a second. Can you help me pass that out, Tony? And can you pass these out on the side? Thank you.
Tony.
Tony. My battery is red, Max.
Yep, we will sort that out.
We are going to do it as that. So I do want to echo what Claire said. I've only done this once, but the amount of detail and precision and creativity that's gone into this has been far beyond my wildest dreams. So thank you for that. This is everything we are going to do, hopefully everything you could possibly need to know. It went out this week. I'm going to walk you through it really quick. I'm not going to read every word, but so you have some idea. What we're going to do is after a discernment prayer here, put ourselves in the head space and soul space, we are going to process out this way. You're going to stop at the table that's in the midway. You're going to sign your name in, and you are going to get 3 stickies. They are marked 1, 2, and 3. This is ranked choice voting. So you will get to choose your first, second, and third choice proposal. You will write your initials on the sticky, just so should we have any questions, we're able to figure out who it is. So you'll write your initials on the sticky, you'll sign in, and then you'll go to the chapel. In the chapel, along the walls, there are large, to get in there and want to take a look at the full proposal. The full proposal is there. There are 9 of them. Each one is its own separate proposal, okay? So you can use one of your votes for the narthex project, one of your votes for the worship space, and one of your votes for music. I'm just doing memory here, right? Those are 3 separate proposals. So everybody understand that there are 13 things you're choosing from, 14 things? It's a list right here. This is what you're choosing from. And within the other proposals, so the First Church Ed Hub, the environmental assessment and justice, and childcare proposals, each one of those has some different components, right? Childcare has come up with 2 different ways that they think we might be able to make it work. If you really prefer one over the other, stick your sticky on that particular option. Stick it on option A or option B. If you don't care and you want to vote for the whole thing, you want to hear little footsteps running around, stick your sticky next to the poster on the right-hand side. That makes sense? Okay. The same is true for others. So like partnering, you've got some standalone initiatives, you've got some larger initiatives, only really interested in one piece of that, right? Like you only want to expand work with VIA or JUMP or the homeless initiative. Put your sticky over that particular initiative and we will count it as being for that. You really want that particular piece, right? Now, this all being said, once it's done, we're going to do some aggregating, right? So we're not going to count it like, well, childcare got 3 on this one vote and it got 4 on this one vote, and that's not very popular. None of those are very popular. We're going to count that like 7 votes, right? And so we'll take that into consideration going forward. It doesn't mean that we're going to count each of those completely separate. Does that make sense? We're kind of weight them. Okay, I think good. I'm getting a lot of nodding heads. All right, if you have any questions, there will be vision team members in there who can ask them. You can, if you want, have all 3 of your stickies go to the same proposal. Like you want this one thing, you have discerned that this is the thing that God is calling us to, and you want to make sure that you put your whole heart behind that, put it all on that project. That's okay, this is discernment. We all come together with different discernments of what's important. Some of us come with certain criteria over others, and God speaks to us through the collective, not the individual. Now, after the discernment has occurred, after you've placed your stickies, again, put it to the right of the proposal if you want to vote for the whole thing, and on a particular part of the proposal if you want to vote for a particular part. After you've done that, we do ask that you move very quickly up to the dining room if you'd like. It's an accessibility thing. You know, there are only a few sheets of paper. We want to make sure everybody can get to them. So once you've done your discernment, please go on up to the coffee hour, eat, drink, enjoy, talk about the whole process with one another. I do want to say for those of you who are virtual, I'm sorry, Max, I keep walking in and out of your frame. We're doing it this way, so hopefully you can follow us into the chapel and get a more up close and personal view of it. It's slightly different than normal. If you are voting virtually, we will send that email out by Wednesday of this week. The reason that we're doing it this way is because we want you to be able to see where the stickies are, the same as the rest of us can, right? We want you to be able to do your discernment in community. So once we've taken pictures and get the form ready, it'll come out to you by Wednesday. If you can't be here in person and you cannot figure out the form, which is fine, Caroline in the office has very graciously offered to just call her. Just call her, she can take care of it for you. So again, if you have questions about any of this, you're not able to be here today, call Caroline in the office, 802-862-5010. Somebody got like a jingle for that? All right, so after today, everything is going to be kind of aggregated, looked at. The vision team will take this information in a soft way, I want to say, and pull it together in ways to craft a strategic congregation again. So this is a step in the discernment process before we move after the congregational discussion to implementation and feasibility, right? So that's where we are in terms of the wider process. So again, what I want to say is I know that there are some folks who feel very strongly about one part of a proposal and not about another part of a proposal, or all of those things. What I'd like to reinforce before I turn it over to Jen to talk a little bit more about this is that we have to be soft and open. Everything about discernment is soft and open. And it may be once we get into the feasibility phase, we find out, oh, well, that part of this method isn't going to work at all, right? And we need to find another way of doing it. So what we're doing right now is voting with our hearts to be open to the will of God to move forward as a community together. We don't know exactly what that looks like. These are our best guesses with these proposals. Does that make sense? Okay. All right. I'm going to turn it over to Jen for just a little bit about what discernment is, and then I'll lead us in a prayer.
Yeah, those are good.
I think it's on. It's on now.
Yep.
It's working? Yes.
Are we starting here? Yeah, or we wanted to create opportunity for connection and community. There's no length of time. You're not going to be kept or released. You're able to go after that. But wanted to have space for people to talk and chat and connect without being disruptive to folks that are still discerning and thinking and having questions and navigating the process. I'm not sure if there's anything else I can add that hasn't been said, and yet I will try my best as a member of the vision team. Super excited that today is here. It's been a journey in many, many ways. And I encourage you, just as I am, continuing to discern as you move into the space. You know, as of yesterday, I was still discerning. Just because I've been on the vision team and have worked on a proposal didn't mean I knew exactly where I felt God leading me and our congregation. And I really ask you to show up in that space. It's not about what you're voting against. We're not voting against things. It's not your pet project or what you want to see happen. This is really about openness and discerning where is God calling us as a community to show up, and how might we move into our future as a congregation, serving our community, moving forward and growing. And so I ask you to do that. And I'm so excited that so many of you have shown up. What you will find when you go to the table to do the sign-in, we have, and it really is, you know, how can we show up in love and be open to this process? What I would like to really reiterate is these are preliminary proposals and the best thinking right now from a certain group of people. So example, like childcare or Ed Hub might have identified it might look like this or that, right? When we're voting for that, we're voting for that vision, for that mission, not for the specifics. Knowing that when we move into strategic planning and then feasibility studies, what that looks like, where that is in the church, what that entails, looks different, could look different, right? Depending on all sorts of circumstances. And that's really where, going back to the trustees and a future congregational meeting, right, folks will be informed in that process. I just don't want us to get really hung up on the specifics. Because again, it's a preliminary proposal that needs to be sorted out and further investigated. But I do encourage you to look at the proposals in the room. Please don't take the proposals. We only have about 5 proposals at each of the stations. It's really for you to glean through there, but leave that for other folks as you move to other spots around the room. Hopefully you had the opportunity to look at that, but the infographic, we have a couple infographic kind of packets here when you sign in that you can take with you. But just want to express appreciation on being for your work in those cottage community conversations or listening sessions that we did so long ago, pandemic and the shutdown, and all of the work of showing up and voting congregationally for which of those proposals we wanted to move forward, and for all of you that have done all of the work in the small groups, and everyone that's been coming to the question and answering and reading all of the information we're putting out and participated in the book groups. It's been a process for all of us as a community. So thank you for discerning with love today. Thank you.
So this is, as I mentioned, an act of worship, so I'm going to light the Christ candle too. It may be helpful in our time of prayer if you would like to focus on it. So let that light guide you. In my video and in my talk with Susan last week, I introduced you to Ignatius's discernment method. This week, I want to familiarize you right now with Lawson's method. It begins in prayer, asking for guidance. In order for this to work, 3 things have to be true. You have to have a relationship of communication with God. You have to be open to that. 2, you have to have a desire for this to know the will of God. You have to have a desire to actually know the will of God, to put your will aside. And 3, you have to have a commitment to hearing and doing that will once it is discerned, right? So prayer. Then we place ourselves in a posture of holy indifference for this, which is identifying, laying aside all of our predetermined conclusions. Yes, even the discernment work you've done over this week, because the last step is always to do it again. And I want you to remember as we do this that God's desires for you may not be the same as God's desires for this community. Right? So in your discernment, keep that in mind. And as we go through the whole process, what I want you to do is remain disinterested in your own feelings and keep them soft. Keep your ideas and conclusions soft. Then when we're in prayer, I will place all of the options before you, much as I did in the video. I will list them out. Listen to yourself for any leaning that comes from that list as I name them. The last step of that is to say, in the words of the Quakers, who are really, this is a Quaker tradition, once we have done that, we share what we've discerned. That's the sticky note time of our gathering today. And that's what we've been talking about, the aggregating and the strategic plan. So that's what we're going to be doing today. So I'm going to ask you to be in a discernment prayer. So get yourself into a comfortable posture. In our mostly active lives and fast-paced culture, waiting is not a popular pastime. Nouwen has written a book on this, and he says it's not something we anticipate or experience with joy. In fact, most of us consider waiting a waste of time. Because in our culture, we are told to get going, to do something, to show you can make a difference. Don't just sit there. But waiting requires full attention to this present moment and the expectation of what is to come. So we are going to begin with waiting. And I'm going to ask us in this posture of holy disinterest to be together for silence. I'm going to time it Only 3 minutes, you can do it. But be in silence for 3 minutes and listen for voice of God speaking to you. Wise and loving God, in his letter to Wise and loving God, in his letter to the Corinthians, Paul writes, I exhort you, family, by the name of Jesus, that you might be made complete in the same imagination and in the same discernment. That is what we ask this day, God, that we might be united in imagination and in discernment, in a generous kind of community that makes room for all of us in our seasons of faith and our seasons of understanding your desires for us. And as we attempt to discern your movement, we choose this day between options that seek to do your will, to continue the ministry of Jesus. And we place before us the proposals, the First Church Ed Hub, supporting and expanding current partner relationships, environmental assessment and climate justice, childcare, the Buildings and Renovations Capital Fund, the Building and Renovation Community Music Space, the Building and Renovations Generate Rental Income, Building and Renovation Improve Accessibility and Security, Building and Renovation Home and Front Entrance Project, Building and Renovation Public Bathrooms and Laundry Project, Building and Renovations Affordable Housing. God, we ask that we might fulfill the 3 characteristics of good discernment with this prayer, that we might be open to communication, that we might truly desire your will and to put aside our own, and that we might be committed to living into the mission discerned with these, our brothers and sisters and siblings, so that if at the end of this church's life we stand before you, we will feel as if we have done our best to follow the way of Jesus in this time and place. So God, we ask that you go with us from this place and into the chapel and into the stickies. Be in the Post-it notes, God, and in this community. May you be a spirit of joy and possibility and hope, and of course, most of all, love. In your name, amen. Okay, friends, so the vision team is going to head out to staff the vision, the little table there, and I'd invite you to stand to collect your belongings and to move there to get your stickies. Again, if you have any questions, we're here to answer them. But may you discern in a spirit of joy.
There's also the software. Okay, I need the whole word. Okay. Not saying to do things, saying things tell you. I'm thinking of it. You want to.
They're all sitting on the wall still.
The tape is right around the corner, so I did it live on Facebook. Because I didn't know if you'd be